As human populations boom, poaching for profit and sustenance erode what's left of Africa's last wild places. And now, our nearest relatives have fallen under threat. If something isn't done, some of the rarest, smartest animals on the planet will disappear forever. When people and animals collide, things are never simple. In this wildlife-human conflict, I'm often called in to seek out the truth, to find out what's really happening on the front lines, and identify the heroes who are making a difference. My name is Ivan Carter, hunter, conservationist, and wildlife investigator. In Africa, the poaching of wild animals has had disastrous effects on the ecology of the continent. As many as 60% of the large wild animals have been wiped out in the last 50 years. In the Congo Basin alone, 1 million tons of illegal bushmeat is poached every year, and a large percentage of that comes from national parks like this, the Kahuzi-Biega, a vast and awe-inspiring rainforest along the eastern border of the Democratic Republic of Congo. I've wanted to come here all my life, and today I'll be making my first ever visit to the park, which has now become a battleground in the fight to save what remains of wild Africa.
We're definitely in a very rural part of the country now. Coming up towards the national park, we're climbing and climbing and climbing. And I'm hoping to find out what they do here to protect the forest from not just bushmeat hunters, but any other threats that might be here.
Even on the outskirts of this 2,000 square mile park, the root of the conflict is all too easy to see.
You know, as you drive through rural Congo, the thing that strikes me the most is that every square inch of land that can possibly be cultivated has been cultivated. The human element here is certainly expanding rapidly and using every bit of ground they can get their hands on.
The crush of humanity on the park's doorstep is placing critical pressure on the wildlife that lives here.
Life's not easy here. And when you're living on the breadline, a wildlife reserve is often a source of food, not a source of beauty.
A UNESCO World Heritage Site, Kahuzi-Biega is home to many endangered species, including some of the world's only remaining growers, or eastern lowland gorillas. Seeing these rare primates with my own eyes would be a personal dream come true. But no sooner do I pull through the park gates than I find something resembling a military parade drill, already in progress. These are some of the 230 park rangers of the Congolese Institute for Nature Conservation, or ICCN for short. A proud and historic institution, I'm told it's their tradition to begin every morning with a march and a song. I also learned that I've arrived on a very busy day. Poaching is a major problem in the park, and my host asks if I'm prepared to accompany these rangers on an early morning operation. This kind of boots-on-the-ground conservation is precisely what I've come here to see.
This is the anti-poaching team that we're going to be going out with today. We're going to be setting up a roadblock. This is what it takes to protect a park like this. An organized, dedicated team of people that's well equipped. So everybody's had their briefing. They're getting ready to get into the vehicles. They've identified an area where they're going to set up a roadblock or a checkpoint and hopefully catch somebody that might be moving with bushmeat.
These rangers are well armed for a reason. Since 1994, 140 of them have been killed in the line of duty. Protecting wildlife in the Congo is a deadly business.
As we go up into the forest, as I look around me, I realize that this is not a group of people I'd want to have trying to catch me. Heavily armed, well-trained, and very passionate about protecting their forest.
And I'm about to get my first look at the kind of courage it takes to maintain law and order in this forest. I'm Ivan Carter, and I've joined an armed patrol in the Kahuzi-Biega National Park, a protected wildlife preserve in the eastern Congo. With an ever-expanding human population on the park's boundaries, poverty-stricken citizens frequently rely on the resources here for profit and sustenance. It's a complex issue and a nightmare for these park rangers who are sworn to protect this wilderness at all costs. Today, we're looking for poachers or anyone trying to smuggle bushmeat out of the park.
So we've deep into the park now. We've come on the main access road with the idea of setting up a roadblock here. This is serious. This is the real deal. Here comes the first motorbike past that they're going to stop.
Most of the traffic here is local villagers coming home from a nearby market. These people have such low incomes that the opportunity to procure extra food or resources from the park is difficult to turn down.
And they're looking for anything. They're looking for bushmeat, any wildlife products, any illegal goods that could be passing through this national park or that could have been hunted or killed in this national park. All they're finding is normal food. Some bananas, some cassava root. But that's the thing. These guys, you never know. In any of these sacks could be anything. Protecting wildlife in a park surrounded by people right on the breadline is no easy task. When these people see wildlife, they don't see beauty, they see food.
This roadblock is a reminder to all villagers that the animals in this park are off limits. But there are always those who are willing to take a risk.
So for the first time, there's somebody who doesn't want to get off the motorbike. They don't want to get off the motorbike. She's just saying that there's maize meal there, there's nothing else. No one else has reacted like this. They've all been very comfortable to show. She says, I don't need to open it. Just feel here. You can feel there's nothing in here. I don't need to open it. This is definitely not maize meal. She still doesn't want to open it. She's still insisting it's just maize meal.
The delay tactic is suspicious and hopeless.
And that's exactly what we're looking for at this roadblock. We've got what looks like a cloven-hoofed animal, probably a duiker of some sort. It's been smoked here. And a porcupine. You know, this may seem like just two small animals. It may seem like a pitiful amount, but it's amazing how much of this goes on under the radar.
If every family in the area took just a couple of animals like this each week, it would have devastating effects on the park's ecosystem.
Thanks to people like the ICCN, makes it very difficult for people to freely move with bushmeat like this.
But this woman was not just carrying meat back to her family. In fact, she's part of a much bigger problem.
So what they're telling me is that she's carrying all of this money because she's not actually a poacher, she's just a transporter.
With meat protein scarce and valuable, large poaching syndicates have organized all throughout these forests.
So she doubles her money. She buys from the poachers. She buys from the poachers for just a few dollars. And by the time she gets it to town, she's selling it for a lot more money.
These illegal poaching networks have been known to stretch across the whole country. And when it comes to conservation enforcement, they are the real prize for these rangers.
But by capturing her, what the commander tells me is that they'll be able to hopefully catch some others.
Nani kuua nyama za park wewe? Hapana. Nauliza mko wangapi?
Under the threat of jail time, the woman decides to cooperate.
They've managed to get some information from this lady as to where she buys her meat, and there's two places she buys meat, and one of them is deeper into the park. She bought this meat this morning. She's told him exactly the place, and they're going to go and try and track very slowly and very quietly and see if we can catch these poachers.
We now have the opportunity to catch a much bigger fish, so we redeploy deeper into the forest.
The lady that we caught earlier, what she did is explain to him that there's a place on the edge of the road. He thinks that that place is right here.
It means taking the team into the thick bush, where it's difficult to see and almost impossible to keep silent.
Not sure.
I'm now smelling smoke from what could be a campfire.
We've got the signal to carry on.
This year alone, 2 rangers have been killed in this very park during raids just like this one.
Stay back, stay back, stay back.
Once again, the commander orders everyone down and quiet.
Something's going on in front of us, something's going on.
2 scouts move ahead of the group.
Stay down, stay down.
Then, moments later, a signal to advance. And then suddenly, it's all chaos. I'm in the middle of Kahuzi-Biega National Park with a platoon of Congolese conservation rangers. Expansive poaching networks are a huge problem in this country, and the criminals are often armed and dangerous. On the outskirts of what we believe is a poaching camp, we lay in ambush. Until the commander signals the attack. By the time the camera crew and I catch up, the rangers already have 2 people down on the ground.
There's definitely a camp of some sort.
And there are lots of weapons scattered around.
Big spear. A lot of machetes. They haven't camped here for long, but the fire is fairly big. Oyo.
Hii silaha
Sira, eh?
ni mbaya.
It's like an old homemade shotgun. Look at this thing.
Hunger and poverty have always motivated resourcefulness.
Look at all these wire snares.
But many homemade poaching implements are simply barbaric when put into practice. These leg hole traps snap on anything that moves, breaking bone and suffocating animals indiscriminately.
There's nothing soft about these people that are living in the forest like this poaching. Thank goodness, thank you to ICCN. There's very few of them able to do this undetected. These are the heroes of wildlife conservation.
The poachers are taken back with us to the headquarters, where they'll face harsh penalties for breaking the park laws. When we arrive, I'm lucky enough to be introduced to the park director, Lucien Gideon Lokumu.
Bonjour.
Oui, bonjour.
Ça va?
Ça va très bien.
Très bien. Très bien.
Because the Congo was previously a Belgian colony, French is still the most common Western language spoken here.
Je crois qu'on peut faire d'abord le bureau et puis on échange là-bas.
Merci.
I've only been here for a few hours, but I'm already impressed by the raw courage and dedication exhibited by his rangers. So I asked the director, where does all this pride come from?
Mais néanmoins, ici, on a une sous-espèce de gorille,
Yeah.
de groillerie, donc on trouve nulle part
Groillerie,
au monde.
hein?
Oui, nulle part au monde, seulement ici. Donc, nous donnons notre corps et âme pour la protection de ces espèces.
The Grauers gorilla is the largest gorilla subspecies on the planet, and one of the most threatened. The human population growth in the region has reduced the gorilla's habitat to 13% of its original size. And bushmeat poaching continues to target these rare and highly social primates.
C'est pourquoi on est voué
Yeah.
à la protection. Même s'il y a des attaques, même dans des moments où il y avait des turbulations dans la zone, nous étions là. Et ces rangers, ils étaient toujours là. Et nous continuons à sécuriser et à protéger pour que les générations qui viennent, les générations futures, puissent aussi vivre le bonheur et le merveille que Dieu a mis dans le parc de Kahuzi-Biega. Vous allez voir maintenant dans le merveille, là, la valeur exceptionnelle qui
Oui,
est les gorilles
très bien.
qui sont tout autour de nous ici.
Oui, très bien.
Ok, c'est bon.
Now that I've seen the anti-poaching, now that I've seen what it takes to protect the park, he now wants to show me why they work so hard to protect it.
I've always wanted to see the rare Grauer's gorilla close up. For me, this is a dream come true.
Well, we're getting ready to go into the forest, and I'm told that it's probably quite a long hike, so I can't wait to see this. This is kind of what we've been waiting for.
Across Africa, 77% of all wild gorillas have been wiped out in the past 2 decades. It's getting harder and harder to see any subspecies of gorilla in the wild, let alone the most rare.
To think that we're in the Kahuzi Biega National Park, actually tracking gorillas.
If I'm lucky, I'll soon be in the presence of a creature that very few people have ever seen with their own eyes. I'm in the Kahuzi Biega National Park with a team of highly trained and dedicated Congolese rangers. I've already seen them in action, and now I'm about to see the source of their tremendous devotion.
What an incredible environment. To think that we're in the Kahuzi Biega National Park, actually tracking gorillas.
In all my years in Africa, I've yet to see the rare Grauer's gorilla with my own eyes. Indeed, this region is the only place in the world that they exist, and only at elevations of 7,000 feet or higher.
Well, we've been traveling now for probably about an hour and a half. It's pretty hot and steamy. Very early.
We suddenly see some crushed bamboo, a mainstay of these gorillas' diets.
Ouais, comment les gorilles?
Gorilla?
Ah oui.
It's our first sign that a group may be nearby.
We're getting close now. We're at the tracks of today, where these gorillas have gone in.
The rangers now insist that we put on masks. Gorillas share 98% of their DNA with humans, making them highly susceptible to many pathogens we might be carrying.
Here we go. Here's a mask for you. Here's a mask for you. Here we go.
We go a few more steps, and my attention is grabbed by something in the trees. And then there's movement on the ground. And suddenly, I see it. My first ever Grauer's gorilla. An arm's length away. Then another. And another. Before I can even process the moment, we're surrounded. A whole family of Grauer's gorillas.
We're just 4 or 5 yards away from these animals, and just now I see what it is that makes these people work so incredibly hard to protect. As I look around me, every single one of the game scouts that's come in here with us is completely enamored by these animals. This is more than just a job for these people. This is what makes this park so important to protect, and so important, actually, to the wildlife of the planet.
Because of the rampant bushmeat trade across the country, these gorillas are regular targets for poachers, and they now stand on the very edge of extinction. If they are to remain in the wild, the poaching epidemic must be curbed.
My team work hard, and they have agreed to die in order to protect these lowland gorillas.
My experience here has inspired me, and I feel compelled to learn more about the bushmeat networks that directly threaten these gorillas. To do that, I've decided to fly to a place where poached animals literally line the streets. Tomorrow I leave the forest and enter the belly of the beast.
And a live turtle here. The skull's been cracked open to dry the brain.
I'm Ivan Carter, and I've been part of a rural anti-poaching operation here in the Democratic Republic of Congo. After seeing what it takes to protect the most endangered primates on the planet, I've arrived at the epicenter of the country's bushmeat trade. The very engine that drives illegal poaching all across the Congo.
The Congo River, just a giant and powerful river flowing through this part of West Africa. But what makes this area so interesting to me is that it's said that 1 million tons of bushmeat comes out of the Congo Basin every single year. For this part of the journey, I've exchanged my greens for civvies clothes. I'm here to investigate just how this bushmeat comes into Kinshasa, how it's traded, and how big this problem really is.
All right, the camera is recording. I can monitor it here on my phone, which is great. There's the picture of Ivan.
It's early morning in the Congolese capital of Kinshasa. My cameraman, Sean, has hidden a camera in a button on his shirt. We'll hit the main market when it opens and hopefully record how poached meat is bought and sold on the streets of this major metropolis.
I have to say it's not without a bit of trepidation. These guys are doing stuff that a lot of the time they know is illegal. I'm just hoping they don't see any of these wires or any of these cameras. I mean, this is a situation where a lot of money changes hands illegally, and I'm sure they're not going to be too happy if they think that we're recording or filming. So we're going to have to be very careful, pay a lot of attention to detail with how we get this set up. So, and I think we're all set.
See all of the chaos of the marketplace here.
The booming population across Africa means there's a lot of hungry mouths to feed. And markets like this one are a cheap source of protein for locals who can't afford to buy legally farmed meat.
Close the door, Sean. Go on, close the door.
It's the chaos of this market, it's unbelievable. Smells, huge sacks of meat. The whole process, basically what happens, as far as I can understand, is this bushmeat comes in from all over the forest on these big boats, and the sellers themselves trade at the boats and then bring the bushmeat to the market.
The first seller we approach has a variety of dried and smoked animals for sale.
Combien?
And among his wares, I'm disturbed to find primates.
You can see this monkey here. It's been dried, its skull's been cracked open to dry the brain. Here's a bush pig. You can see by this red fur, it's a red river hog. And a live turtle here. Poor guy. And combien?
$100.
$100?
Yeah.
$100. There's a bunch of monkeys here. $15 each. Merci. Merci.
After about an hour, I approach a man who appears to be just another bushmeat seller.
What he's saying is he doesn't know how much bushmeat he brings in here every week, but it's a lot. He hunts it in the park, or he's got hunters that hunt in the park. They put it on the boat, the boats come here, and then he trades it to these sellers on the street. Et combien de chasseurs avez-vous?
5 chasseurs.
5, eh?
Ouais.
But then,
Vous voulez chimpanzé?
a bombshell I wasn't expecting.
The biggest thing he tells me is that he's got 3 chimpanzees in the Kindu province, and they're near Kindu village. He said for $120 each.
Des
We can
chimpanzés
go buy them
vivants.
from him.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. Live chimpanzees.
They'll viennent à
Kinshasa, oui, à
Kinshasa. He said if we order them, he can have them here in a week. The live chimpanzees. Okay, we have to go. We have to go. Let's go. Let's go. Well, we certainly found a lot of bushmeat. We learned a lot about how the system works, but most of all, we found that there's 3 live chimpanzees that he tried to sell us that are in Kindu village. Not really sure what to do about that. We've got his number, he's given us the location. I'm tempted to purchase them and get them to Chimpanzee Sanctuary. This is an eye-opener. This is way more than I thought it would be.
I can't help but recall my recent encounter with the Growers guerrillas. And I know that chimpanzees are every bit as intelligent and just as devoted to their families. The cruelty of bushmeat poaching now seems to pale in the face of what can only be described as slavery. Mine and Sean's first instinct is to save these chimps by buying them ourselves. But I need advice, and I happen to have a good friend, Itsaso Guinea, who runs a primate sanctuary back in the eastern part of the country.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Itsaso. Bye.
What did she say?
She said that we mustn't buy them under any circumstances. She said that, you know, just money changing hands, the poachers don't know or care what we're going to do with the chimps, whether we're rescuing them or using them as pets.
Right.
She said that all they know is that they're worth money. And so all you're doing is making the trade worse if we buy these chimps. But
Makes sense.
she just said she wants us to back off. She doesn't even want us to go to him and find any more details. She's worried that those chimps might start their journey to Kinshasa if we show too much interest. And so she says we must just back off.
Right.
I'm frustrated, but at least there's a plan.
What we're going to do, she's got a team that's going to go and start the negotiation. The ICCN, that is the government body, the equivalent of a National Park Service, is going to be, they've got a big office there. They're going to go in as well. And it may take a day, it may take a week, it may take a couple of weeks. But they're going to find those chimps and they're going to see if we can rescue them. Sure, it's tough to walk away from. Very tough to walk away from.
I have confidence that our ICCN friends can rescue the chimps. But the question is, when? Young chimps are like human babies. If they experience enough abuse and stress, they may never recover. I feel I've seen enough of Kinshasa and the horrors of the bushmeat trade. The safety of these 3 chimps has now become mine and the crew's only concern. We've discovered that there are 3 live baby chimpanzees being held in a remote area of the Congo Basin. Having informed the authorities, now all we can do is wait for the ICCN to track down the captured chimps. In the meantime, I've journeyed back to the eastern part of the country to link up with Itsaso, my friend and contact at the Luero Chimp Sanctuary. This research and rehabilitation center is where the stolen baby primates will end up, if they can be found.
Well, we're just approaching the gates of the research center. And this is also where the chimp rehab center is. So, man, it's been a bit of a journey.
Two years ago, primate expert Itsaso Guinea came here from Spain to see the Luero Rehab and Research Center, and she never left.
Finally, yeah.
Let me introduce you. This is Prince Kaleme. He's the scientific director.
Prince, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much, Ivan.
Beautiful building here. A lot of good work goes on here, eh?
Yeah.
When I started this investigation into bushmeat poaching, I had no idea it would unearth the trade of actual live animals. So I asked Prince for some background on this very disturbing issue.
At the old days, they've been killed only for food. You see, this all is from a gunshot.
Really?
And only one adult would be killed.
And they eat it.
And they eat it. And so nowadays, people kill all families to get just one baby because they want to sell it as a pet.
So, Prince, you're saying they kill the whole family just to get one pet?
Just for one individual.
People will do anything for money, eh?
That is greed, man.
Most of these chimps met a tragic end, but there are luckier ones that have been rescued and brought here. Just outside the research center is a massive compound where traumatized primates are rehabilitated. It's an awe-inspiring facility where the animals have room to live and socialize in something very close to their natural environment.
This is our biggest prod. It's a big enclosure with a big forest inside.
Almost natural, eh?
Yeah, almost. They can build nests in the trees. That is quite natural. They have males, females, juveniles, even a baby.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's also during the day you see these guys out there, they're eating flowers, whatever. How often do you actually have to feed them every day?
The juvenile group is fed 5 times per day.
5 times a day?
Yeah.
Sure.
And we buy all the food from local farmers, so they can see also the benefit of the sanctuary.
And I can imagine with this many chimpanzees, that's a lot of food, eh?
Yeah, it's a lot of money that is, directly to the community.
Yeah.
The sanctuary's commitment to community doesn't end there. Working with an organization called Coopera, they spearhead many humanitarian initiatives, providing jobs and support to victims of political turmoil and civil war.
Truly, the people of this area see the value of an operation like this. They see the value of conservation.
If the chimps here at Luwero are able to heal from the abuse they've suffered at the hands of their captors, they'll one day be released back into the wild. But some of Luwero's residents will never recover.
Yeah, it's the saddest part. We can go to see them. We cannot spend too much time with them because they get very stressed, but let me show you.
Okay.
Just like humans who've been through catastrophic circumstances, chimps can become mentally and emotionally damaged beyond repair.
These are the cases that breaks my heart. He's gentle. He was for years dancing in the street.
For years, eh?
Yeah, he still dance and make weird faces.
So they'll never be able to integrate or go back to the wild. They're just too mentally destroyed, eh?
No, they will stay here for the rest of their life.
It's yet another sobering reminder of the impact we have on the animals we share this planet with. We can harm or we can help. Just then, one of the workers approaches Itsaso with some good news. The 3 young chimps I discovered in Kinshasa have just been rescued by a group of ICCN rangers, and they're being transported to the closest airstrip from here. Itsaso asks if I'd like to come and help with the pickup, but she warns it could be a very difficult experience. We won't have any idea what condition these babies will be in until we arrive. After discovering that 3 baby chimpanzees were being held in captivity, I've traveled to the Luwero Chimp Sanctuary to assist with their rescue. We just received word that the chimps have been seized by government operatives and are en route to the nearest airstrip.
We're getting ready to go to the airport and fly and collect these chimpanzees.
I have little doubt that the people who stole our baby chimps have been dealt with by the ICCN. But right now, all anyone can think of is getting these babies back to safety. There's no telling how much trauma they've already endured, so a top-notch vet team will travel with us. Once we arrive, the vets will assess the health of the chimps and prepare them for the trip back here to Luwero, where proper medical facilities have been prepared and are standing by. Our rendezvous point is Kindu Airport, just under an hour's flight away. As soon as we land, I see the cages. But I still have no idea what shape these chimps are in.
Well, the little babies have just arrived. Our other little guy on the other cage, he's what looks like he's not in very good shape.
They've been living in these cages for weeks, separated from their families, isolated, scared and alone.
They're just going to break the padlock off their cage.
In the wild, chimps receive constant comfort and closeness until the age of 5. These are probably the first hugs these babies have had since they were taken from their mothers.
Okay, now this little guy's terrified. Just look at the filth in this cage. I mean, this poor little guy. I don't know how long they've been here, but it's certainly a few weeks.
Chimps share so much of our DNA, and they're so close to us in the way they feel and think, that I can't help but think of my own children. What if these were human toddlers, going through everything these little guys have been through?
Just got to try and gently coax him out of here. 2 of them very easy to handle, but this little guy is so stressed. He's a little bit aggressive, he's very strong, and so they're actually going to tranquilize him.
The vets tried to get the meds into the stressed chimp with a laced banana.
Too clever.
But they're having no luck.
Too clever.
The banana would have been too easy. Now they're going to have to do it the hard way.
They've made the decision. They can't get him out of here without tranquilizing him, so that's what they're going to do.
It's not an easy operation to perform, but this guy's way too stressed, and it's for his own good.
So what Luis has just done is he's just blowpiped him to give him a drug that's going to put him to sleep. That way, he's going to be manageable. He's a little bit too strong to manhandle, and he's certainly too stressed to come out here on his own. So what we're going to do is we don't want to put this drug one with the other one. So Lena's going to take this little baby out of her cage, and we're going to put this one in here.
As I've seen, abuse and stress can cause permanent damage to a young chimp. We have to get these babies to the safety of the rehab center as fast as possible.
The engines have started. The chimpanzee's breathing. He's had the antidote, and the journey's about to begin. The trauma for these little guys is nearly over.
Back at Luiro, they'll do a thorough assessment. We need to find out the extent of the damage these chimps have suffered.
Well, we're arriving here at Luiro, at the chimp sanctuary, and so this is pretty much the end of the journey for these little guys.
This property will be home to these chimps until they're fully grown, and maybe longer if they're unable to recover.
Now we've come into the clinic here at Luiro. This is where these guys are going to have their initial tests. And the two vets, Luis from Gorilla Doctors and Lena, who's the permanent vet here, are going to really check these little guys out and check out all of their health and vital statistics and just make sure that they're okay. There's a scar all across his back. They've tied a rope really tightly around his hips, and you can see a big scar there. As cute as these little guys are, as human as they are, it's an incredibly sad story. Both of them have been ripped away from their families, that have been killed. They don't deserve this.
This part of the assessment is all about treating the physical damage done to these chimpanzees. The psychological assessment will take longer and is of far greater cause for concern.
What we're going to do is we're just going to leave the handlers. These little guys are going to get put with a person for the night. We're going to back off with the cameras, with all of the external stimulus, and just leave them and possibly come and have a look in the morning and see how they're doing. A lot will depend on how they settle tonight, whether or not we can see them in the morning.
The next time I see these orphans, I'll learn what their future holds. Will they be among those released back into the wild, or will they live out their lives here, forever haunted by the trauma of their capture and captivity?
Carter's War would like to thank the following people and organizations. Without their help, this program would not be possible.
After encountering an illegal animal trader at a market in Kinshasa, I managed to help rescue 3 young chimpanzees from a life of captivity and abuse. We flew them to the Primate Rehabilitation Center in Luiro, where they've been assessed and have had several days to acclimatize to their new surroundings.
I'm coming to check on our babies that we rescued. They're in quarantine down here at Isaso's house, and I can't wait to find out how they're doing.
I'm hoping, with all my heart, that the prognosis is good and that our baby chimps are adapting well. I've already seen what happens to traumatized primates that are not able to recover.
Please put your mask on.
Okay.
As soon as I lay eyes on them, my fears are laid to rest. Even the most stressed of the 3 now seems happy.
And they're looking a lot more active, eh?
Yeah, for sure. At the beginning, they were not playing, they were really sad, and now you can see, even the eyes.
Their eyes are a lot brighter, eh?
Yeah.
The little guy certainly loves his new mother, eh?
Yeah.
You know, when they first came, it was heartbreaking. They just kind of sit there and stare. And now they're active, they're playing, they're tickling each other. Yeah, they're well on their journey towards a much better place. This is awesome. Really cool to see.
The prognosis is good. The chimps seem stable and happy, but there's still a very long road ahead. Our 3 rescues will stay in this quarantine area for 2 long months, and they'll never be alone. Surrogate mothers will live with these babies round the clock, 7 days a week. Such is the dedication of the workers here at Luero.
Hi, little duty. Are you feeling a lot better? You're a lot better. You know, when you look at what it takes to truly rehabilitate a chimp that comes in here psychologically wounded, physically in very bad shape, it's a commitment of many, many years, and some of these chimps will live to over 40 years old, so they're going to get integrated into a big group. They're going to get to live in one of these giant enclosures, and one day, they too will go back into the wild.
It's truly amazing to me how a war-torn country like Congo can produce so many dedicated and passionate conservation heroes. Thanks to the employees at Luero and the brave rangers of the ICCN, our endangered primate cousins, and in fact all of the animals of the Congo Basin, now have a fighting chance. But the war is far from over, and the lesson here is the same as elsewhere on this beautiful continent. Now is the time to conserve what is important to us, or one day, very soon, it may be all gone.